Hello and welcome to this week's Blockchain Gaming Roundup by blockchaingaming.biz. Today is Friday the 10th of May and we have quite a few headlines to kick us off. We have the Icelandic developer CCP Games, which have been talking a little bit more about their Project Awakening project, the EU Online kind of universe game that's coming, got their upcoming playtest starting on the 21st of May. We also have the hybrid TCG Soulforge Fusion, which we did an interview with the Justin Gary, co-founder and creator of the game, co-creator, I should say, with Richard Garfield, the Magic the Gathering creator. So we talked a little bit more about why they have sort of taken the path that they have gone from mobile gaming and then on to sort of wanting to go into the digital sort of ownership track, and now why they are adopting Web3 to sort of enhance those aspects of the games. So we've equally been talking to Tap Nation, which is sort of similarly talking about why, as a game publisher developer, you need to stay ahead of innovation. You can't sort of live in the past and think that things are going to work out well forever. So again, mobile games publisher, which has taken the path to go into Web3, and both adopting Web3 into some of their already existing mobile games, but also into sort of some of the building games from scratch with Web3 elements. So two interesting interviews. You've also been talking to Gabby Dyson from YGG this week. Let's see, YGG Investor Hash, what are they called now?
Long Hash,
yes. On the future role of guilds in Web3. Obviously, guilds were something quite huge back in 2021 when Axie was taking off, and particularly YGG had a sort of instrumental role in sort of the growth and popularity of guilds. And so you're sort of really interesting actually discussing whether guilds are sort of are they history now, sort of thing, or was the future and how guilds have sort of changed their function, I suppose, in the Web3 gaming space. So really, really interesting interview. You'll find it on our website, blockchaingaming.biz, and it's like a podcast version as well, video. You can just go and watch on John's YouTube channel. We also got news of Engine, the kind of early blockchain pioneer in blockchain gaming. Engine has relaunched a revamped version of their initial Spark program, which was initially launched in 2019 to attract kind of game developers to their ecosystem. So that kind of tells you about how early on they were sort of a player in the game, and that's now been relaunched to sort of try and attract new developers to build games on the network, which is sort of in line with what a lot of ecosystems are sort of doing at the moment, which I'm sure we'll discuss. So obviously all about trying to attract as many game developers as possible. Is that sort of a sustainable strategy, or is it more about trying to pin down the kind of more qualitative game developers who I suppose are building more quality and for the long term sort of thing? Anyway, we had a feature actually this week about Epic Game Store and how it now lists 127 titles, blockchain games, and quite a lot of those are not live yet. And you know, we sort of broke down the data, and one of those games that's just launched recently is Decimated. I don't
think they've actually launched it. I think with Epic Store, a lot of people sort of go, they have like a page on the store, so you can sort of wish list them and stuff. So they're sort of, it's the first step before sort of going live. So I think I can't remember the exact details, but when I broke it, basically when you create when a developer creates a page on Epic Game Store, they can obviously say we've gone live now. You can download the game, or you can sort of, it looks like you can put in a nominal statement saying coming soon, which doesn't mean anything, or you can actually put in specific dates. So you sort of can break it down. I had a look to see. Obviously, the sensible thing is to say coming soon rather than putting a specific date, because obviously you look a bit silly if your specific date is Q1 2024 and you're not live. So
yeah. And it's quite interesting because there's one game on there that's not launching until 2025.
Yeah, I wonder if that was a mistake. They sort of put the wrong year in or something. But I mean, games take time to make. So
yeah, quite a lot of shooters. I mean, obviously it would be with PC games platform like that, but a huge amount of shooters in Web3 seems to be in the making and seems to be taking their time being made. Thanks for pointing that out, actually. That's good. And then, so another shooter, first-person extraction shooter, Shrapnel, which is probably, I would say, one of the top 3, if not the top most anticipated shooter in blockchain gaming being developed at the moment by Neon Machine. They are less than a week away now from their third playtest, STX playtests that they've been running. And ahead of that, they've also sort of integrated this feature where you can buy Shrap tokens directly via their website, just using like debit or credit card. So you don't have to go through third-party exchanges to get that. And then the Shrap you can get in the items and in-game items. You can use those in the playtest, so it sort of fills a function immediately. Is that right?
I think, I'm trying to remember when I spoke to them last. I don't think you've been able to use anything up to this point. I think for the third playtest, some of that starts happening. You can get skins, gun skins. And what's happening in this playtest is you start to craft things. So you can... I think every skin contains 3 different items, so you have to collect all 3 items and then sort of craft it to get the skin. Or there's some items that are like wild cards, so if you have like 2 of one theme of a skin, you can just use the wild card to sort of get the third one. But the main thing actually about the playtest, aside from the playtest, is they're going sort of having this basic crafting element going live, and also the marketplace. So at the moment you can buy skins. I'm not sure if you can trade them, but there's sort of no point because they have no functionality. Whereas now with this sort of very basic sort of crafting system, there may be a reason where people will want to buy these sort of skin components, and so it's the first step of sort of testing this stuff out.
Good. And in the last headline, we had the Sandbox announcing that ITV Studios celebrity coach talent show The Voice is coming to the metaverse. So there's be kind of an opportunity for players to take on the role of celebrity coaches and take on a virtual talent, and coach them to sort of on the journey to success. Very much like the experience of how this show works. I've never watched it, so I'm kind of talking about it as if I know I know this, but that's how it's been described anyway. And along the journey, you can also have the opportunity of earning some sand tokens if you are lucky and choose the right talent.
There's Stormtroopers, minting Stormtroopers, but not in America as well.
Oh yes, exactly. That's right. They did have the Stormtroopers mint this week, but
it's still happening. Yeah, it's called the official Stormtroopers because there's a very long lawsuit about the person who invented the Stormtrooper look in the first Star Wars film, who claimed he never gave away the rights to that, or Lucas never bought the rights off him, so he had the rights to. He was making Stormtrooper, physical costumes and stuff, and Lucas or Disney, whoever it was at the time, sued him, and he actually won. They'd never signed away the rights, so. Not in America, because I guess Disney is powerful enough to do that. But outside of America, there is some company now who owns the rights to Stormtroopers. They call them the official Stormtroopers, and that's the deal they've done. So you actually do find quite a lot of times, or there were in the past quite a lot of NFT collections based around these Stormtrooper things, because they were doing a deal with the Stormtrooper people, and they obviously they didn't want to spend all money getting all the Star Wars things, because the Stormtroopers are probably one of the more iconic. I guess Stormtroopers and Yoda are probably the sort of key things on Star Wars, aren't they? And lightsabers. But anyway.
That's right. Right. Now next week, I know we're running ahead a little bit, but kind of think it's relevant still to talk about the coming launch of Guild of Guardians, seeing as it's quite a significant, let's say, milestone, not just for Guild of Guardians and Chris Clay and his team, which is obviously a massive sort of milestone. But like he says, this is only the beginning, really. They've done all the hard work now, and they should not see this as sort of the end point, now starts the hard work sort of thing. But why is it significant? And talk a little bit more about what Guild of Guardians is. I'm sure people already know. Why it has a bigger impact on the sort of Web3 gaming industry, not just for Guild of Guardians and Immutable.
Yeah, so sort of, I guess I have plenty of pet subjects, but Guild of Guardians is definitely one pet subject because I have followed it in quite a bit of detail. So, Guild of Guardians was sort of a game. So that Immutable started talking about, sort of announced, I suppose, in 2021. So Immutable, back in the day was best known as a developer of Gods Unchained, the trading card game. It's still going. I think that was actually announced in 2018. So there was a lot of fuss back in 2018 about this Guild of Gods Unchained game. And Immutable sort of grew really quickly, made lots of, did lots of funding, and started to become this quite big sort of company in the space. And so it wanted to do more games. So it came up with this, with Guild of Guardians. It was, as the name suggests, very much focused around guilds. So it sort of had a play to earn element, but that was sort of focused toward guilds. And they did some, quite a lot of NFT sales back in the day, and they were quite expensive. I remember you were buying these sort of guild badges, and guilds like YGG were buying them. In the hope that they were going to sort of onboard that type would have been scholars and sort of earn money that way, and that was sort of how the game was going to work out. And the game was always a mobile RPG. In that first iteration, it was a sort of a direct control RPG. So you had a squad of 4 characters, and there was a collection element to those characters, obviously, but you were sort of controlling them in a very loose sort of sense. You were sort of controlling them in a random dungeons or roguelike sort of experience. And I played an early version of that, and it was it was okay. They were working then with a Ukrainian developer called Stepico, who are sort of well known for making mobile games. And the sort of development continued on, and it looked like it was going to come out. I think I'm trying to remember now. Maybe early 2023 it was going to come out. I think off the top of my head, and I think that's sort of when the playtests were happening. And then it went quiet for a bit, and then suddenly. Sort of everything changed, and they decided that, I think, having looked at some of the feedback, that the game wasn't sufficiently engaging, in terms of sort of, despite being, whether it's a blockchain game or not didn't matter. If with a lot of these games, if you don't have certain, particularly for mobile games, you don't have sort of certain retention mechanics. If your sort of day one retention is 10%, then doesn't really, there's no point in launching that game because you can't market it. Everyone falls out you're losing 90% of your players on day one. So I can't remember these exact metrics, but there are some sort of, some sort of rule of thumb metrics that you need, and probably, I don't know, like day one retention probably needs to be over 70%. Day 30 retention, you would love to have like 50, 40%. That'd be amazing. And so you can build games. If it just doesn't work, then it doesn't really matter. What license you've got, it doesn't work. So they basically hit a big reset button, got rid of some of the team, got rid of the Ukrainian developer, and moved to this Chinese developer called MindLoader. Is that right? Yeah, MindLoader. And the basis of the game as a mobile RPG was kept. I think the guild stuff has sort of been downplayed. Is still there, but instead of becoming a game where you controlled a squad, it became much more what we see in the mobile space, which is you build a squad. The sort of the meta of the game is collecting loads of characters and leveling them up and gearing them up and choosing certain sets of putting different characters, combining different characters into squads to do certain tasks. So you don't just build one, like, this is my squad and this has got all my best characters in. You sort of, maybe for some dungeons you need a mix of more healing and less tanks or something, depending on the characters. So actually I spoke to Chris Clay, who's the sort of game head of the sort of game production, earlier this week, and hope to have a podcast with him next week. We'll see how that plays out. But he's saying it's sort of funny that from his point of view, when he's only been on the project for 14 months, the project's been 14 months, which is not which is not a lot. He says it's like been really rushed. But because they announced it in 2021, everyone's like, when's the game coming out? You've been doing it for 3 years. So it's sort of this sort of funny disconnect. But anyway, it's a much better game now, I would say. I've played it, I played the tests at least. And so it's coming out through app stores on the 15th of May. If you were playing it, you wouldn't know it's a blockchain game. You have to sort of sign in, and I think you have to sign in using their passport.
Immutable passport.
Immutable passport, which is their wallet onboarding system. So you can just do that with an email. You can just do it with Google or Apple. So it's not really anything complicated, I don't think. But signing in with anything will probably lose you some, percentage of players. I mean,
if you've got an immutable wallet, you can claim a gem every day as well.
Yeah,
that's an extra bonus.
But equally, for some people, just won't have email addresses, or kids, potentially, won't have that. So there is a restriction there. But when you get in there, you wouldn't know it's a blockchain game. It's very much like we've discussed in the past with NFL Rivals, that you start off with a bunch of characters that are not NFTs. You have to level them up to a certain level. And then you can't remember the exact term, what they call it, maybe ascend, I can't remember. But you basically level them up, and then you ascend them, and you have to have a special material to ascend them. And you buy that material. I mean, you may get some of it for free, but basically you buy that in that purchase. And as we've seen before, that's because Apple and Google don't really care about blockchain. They're not religious about it. But if anything's happening in terms of value flow, they want 30%. So basically you have to have something where you're using your Apple Pay or whatever, your credit card's being charged $10 and Apple's getting 30% of that. So that's how it works. I've not tested the marketplace stuff, but it seems like that is all happening off the app. So that was all happening on the Immutable website, and you can just log into your website using Immutable Passport, using your just going through your email, and all the sort of marketplace stuff will happen there. So it is maybe I'm. I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know. I was going to say maybe we were overplaying this a little bit, but this is so Immutable, as we sort of discussed, is this one of the biggest and most sort of high profile blockchain game companies. So it does a few of its own games. There's 2 games at least that we know of, but mainly it's a big blockchain game platform. It has its own infrastructure, has effectively its own blockchain. It actually runs on Polygon. It is the biggest gaming token. So the IMX token is the number one by quite a long shot. I can't remember what the market cap is at the moment, but a couple of over $3 billion market cap at the moment. So it's quite a big enterprise. They keep telling us how many games they've got. 320 is the latest count, as we sort of discussed. It was discussed in my email recently. So while I wouldn't want to overplay the sort of the weight on Guild of Guardians as a game, because it is its own game, you can't put the future of Immutable on one game, because obviously they're a platform, and if Guild of Guardians is a total failure, that doesn't mean Immutable is a total failure. But clearly this is more than another launch of a blockchain game, because it's Immutable's sort of first party game. They're clearly going to put a lot of marketing behind it. We know that. And it's also a good game, as far as I can. I've not obviously played it for, a year or something. That these games have to have a lot of longevity, and that's, I guess, what you're saying, Chris Clay, the sort of main man behind it, is saying this is the beginning, because now you have to run what they call live ops, which is basically people want new stuff every day. They want new missions, they want new characters, they want new things in the game to keep them occupied. So that's what starts now. Without overplaying it, but equally trying to give it the sort of correct significance. I think it is one of the certainly it's one of the bigger launches this year, and it is because it's on mobile. It's not like people doing. I mean, you mentioned Shrapnel. I mean, Shrapnel has these 3-day long game tests, and then the game goes away. You can't play it. You can only play. It's very early access. With mobile, it's like it's live now. It's live now. Obviously, they can change stuff, but basically, this is the global launch. We're sort of nailing our colours to the mast on this one. So there is a I think a symbolism and a significance to it at the same time.
I guess, kind of as you mentioned, more critical people might sort of remark on the fact that they've had 14 months in development, which is a fairly short time really to develop a good game compared to I don't know, other kind of successful Web 2 games if you'd compare with those. But so is that kind of a flaw almost, or a weakness, do you think?
I mean, obviously they'd like more time to do it. You all developers, have a big list of features they want to get in, and if you leave developers unto themselves, they will never release a game because they'll always be finding.
Yeah.
So there is all that, But I think it's definitely the case that because it was, basically the first year certainly of development was basically junked. They've changed. I imagine they've sort of changed, if not everything, quite a lot of everything really. So and to say a fairly high profile game like that in 14 months, and it's been in soft launch since the start of this year, so they've really had probably only a year really before bits of it have been live. And as soon as something's live, just sort of very focused on that and so yeah, I mean it just is what it is. I mean the nice thing about mobile games is that they are you used to have a thing called minimum viable product, which was basically get the smallest amount of game that you thought people might like out, and then iterate around that. And we've sort of moved away from that a little bit. That was people making games in 6 months and putting them out and seeing what happened. So we're not quite there, but it is a sort of similar thing. And for one small example, one of the NFTs they sold back in the day were pets. So there are these pet NFTs, and the pet NFTs are not supported in the first launch of the game. So that's something that's on their roadmap for a few months' time. People who have spent money buying pet NFTs, they will be able to bring them into the game, but that's not, we can't put everything in at launch. So there's those sort of things coming down the line. But I guess the interesting thing is, that one is that you imagine the initial people who are going to play this game are going to be people in the blockchain crypto space who are just kind of like, I've heard about this for a long time. Now in app stores I'm going to play it. But then obviously over time, for this to be successful, then you sort of want it to be just people randomly looking through app stores and just going, what's this Guild Guardians thing? Who are Immutable? Never heard of them. And trying out and going, no, this is quite good. And then sort of leveling up their NFT, leveling up their character, and then go, I can do something. I can make it tradable. Wonder what that means. So that sort of, I guess that's the symbolism of the Web 2.5 sort of game where you take sort of people who don't know anything about crypto would never own Bitcoin, and suddenly they're trading NFTs. They don't know they're NFTs. They call them digital assets. So we'll see. That's a long way off. That's a couple of years off, probably.
Good. No, it's one of the most anticipated games. It's been for a long time. It's been on our list. We need to update our 10 most anticipated games after this. Anyway, so we look forward to that. Idle RPG, Guild of Guardians, coming out 15th of May on mobile app stores. Check it out. Right, on that note, we're going to finish off. Right, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye.